Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a movie review. This movie is a horror film from Argentina, Spanish language English subs, released in the year 2014, directed by Gabriel Greco, and this movie is called Still Life. So the Spanish title is Naturaleza Muerta. So the story of Still Life, you've got this woman who has disappeared. Now she was working on a story of the Argentinian meat trade. So the meat trade is an important source of income for a lot of people here in Argentina. Many consider the meat here to be the best in the world. So it is something that is in the spotlight, but what a lot of people don't want you to see is how the animals are treated. So this woman was involved in that, and all of a sudden she's gone. So this investigative reporter follows her footsteps. She wants to determine what's happened to her. She comes to this rural land in Argentina and she finds some of her belongings on the ground. So this further proves her theory that she was kidnapped. So she's trying to uncover what's going on, and at the same time she becomes embroiled in this bitter dispute between meat eaters and vegetarians. So along the way she meets some strange people, and before long she realises that uncovering the truth is going to put her in a lot more danger than she anticipated. So what that danger is, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Still Life. I really wanted to like this film for the sole purpose that it was Argentinian. Now I love Argentina. I'm in Argentina right now. My wife is Argentinian, so it does mean a lot to me. And when I see my beloved genre being done in Argentina, I want to give it my best to give every one of these films a shot. So when I saw this in the stores, I thought I'm definitely going to get it, but after seeing the trailer I had my hesitations about, it is a low budget movie, and I thought that it would suffer from the low budget curse, basically the constraint of money. And unfortunately that is the case with this film, is that it does suffer very much from a budget. But although the movie is very inconsistent in what it's trying to do, I actually thought it had a very good idea. This is basically tackling the meat trade and tackling vegetarians, and how vegetarians will look upon meat eaters and how meat eaters will look upon vegetarians. So to intertwine that in a horror film I thought was very interesting. And unfortunately, although the idea does wear out after a while, the start of the movie is basically just telling you how people see the meat trade, and just because you're a meat eater, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are an evil person, because basically what we see is something to eat on a plate, and you're not really looking at how these animals came about, being slaughtered. So it does show you the contradiction in some people who basically say they don't support the slaughter of animals, yet they're willing to eat these animals, which is basically encouraging the slaughter of them. So it does show you that contradiction, and I thought that was the most interesting aspect of this film, and the best aspect of it as well. But unfortunately, as I said, for a horror film it really doesn't work, because the budget constraints do get in the way. Now to start off with, the camera angles and the camera work is pretty mediocre. At the start of the movie you can see it is being held and it's shaking. Although it can be a panning shot, it is actually shaking, and it actually feels like they didn't have a tripod, they didn't have anywhere to lay their camera to make it just a static sort of shot. So it actually felt like the whole movie was shot by someone just holding it manually. And that does get in the way, because when the horror set pieces come into place, you don't really feel any tension, because they're shot, it's either getting to the point too slowly, or the scene is shot in a very zoomed up quality. So when it feels like it's on zoom, you feel a certain sense of claustrophobia, but not in a good way, because you sense that there is other aspects of this scene that you want to see, but because it's zoomed up, you feel that you're locked in all the time, so you're not really getting the full sort of experience that a lot of other horror films allow you to have. So the atmosphere is killed by those problems, and that makes the film very boring. So although the idea is very interesting, disappointingly, it does fall flat very quickly, because the characters are very hollow. You don't have any relatability to these characters, because the script is very bad. Now the acting is decent for a low budget movie, but it does once again feel very disjointed and very inconsistent, but they really didn't have anything to play with. This investigative reporter, you don't really know too much about her, and her inconsistent performance really does become noticeable, because one instance she could be feeling really scared and she's absolutely shattered that she's seen something ghastly, but then the next scene it feels like she's a different person. So it actually feels like she's got an identical twin, and this identical twin is going through a different sort of situation than the other twin. But when you've got it just being one character, it shows you it is very inconsistent and disjointed. So if you don't really believe what these characters are going through, you don't really believe what the story is trying to convey, and that to me is why the film gets gets very boring very quickly. And I will say that right at the end of the film, it does pick up. I absolutely loved the very last scene around a dinner table, but it's getting to that last moment that is the chore. And so it feels like it was kind of saving itself up for its big moment. But when you've got a movie that goes for 90 minutes, when you're saving yourself up for, say, 80 minutes of just nothing, just filler, you start to notice it, and by the time it comes to the end, you think to yourself, well, I've lost interest, I don't really care anymore. And although it will hit you right at the end with some nasty stuff, you think to yourself, well, I've seen a movie that has about 10 minutes worth of very entertaining quality, and basically 10 minutes worth at the start where you're interested in the story, but it just doesn't feel like it goes anywhere. It feels like it's filler, and it's just expanding itself just for the sake of making a full-length feature film. So this was a very disappointing experience from Argentina, not one of the best films to come out of here, and it's probably one that I would say skip the opportunity. So overall, for Naturaleza Muerta, aka Still Life, I'm only going to give it 1 star. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.